7, 8, and 9 of Second Class Citizen. And at the end of the summary, I would be asking a couple of questions and of course answering them so that we can have a proper grasp of the events that happened in each of these chapters I have just mentioned. Alright, let's start with chapter 7. So chapter 7 is titled The Ghetto. I recall that Francis and Ada, especially Ada, has found it very difficult to find a place to stay. The last place they get on Holly Street, they refuse to give it to them because they discover that they are blacks. So in chapter 7, Janet tells Ada about the nobles. So Ada persuades Francis to follow her down to the nobles so that they could negotiate. Ada has to trade Francis's acceptance for sex before he agrees to follow her to, so that they can see if they could get another apartment. Getting to the nobles, we understand that the narrator helps us understand that Noble, Mr. Noble, that name Noble is a pseudonym, it's not his real name. That Mr. Noble is one of the Nigerian men who came to England in the 1940s. The idea, what they had in their mind was to come to England, read for a law degree, and then go back to Nigeria during independence and get the juicy positions. The narrator helps us understand again that most Nigerians who had this notion in the 1940s and came to England, they failed at achieving their goal. Only very microscopic few were able to achieve this goal. Mr. Noble, like the narrator helps us understand, is one of those who failed to achieve this goal. So he stays back in England, gets menial jobs rather, gets his hand on menial jobs. In the course of doing the menial jobs, he loses his right arm to a foolish game of show of strength, where he lifts manually a lift until he loses his arm to that. So, but he's lucky enough to be compensated in his workplace. The money with which he was compensated, he uses it to get a property on Willis Road. So this is the property that Francis and Ada has come to, see if they can get a room or two in. They are successful to get the apartment. So that's the main point in chapter 7, titled The Ghetto. Alright, so chapter 8 is titled Role Acceptance. The narrator tells us in chapter 8 that Ada resigns to fate. That is, Ada, accepts the responsibility of catering for the family. That's the role acceptance. She takes responsibility for the family, for catering for the family. Francis does nothing to cater for his own family. Ada pays the rent, Ada takes care of the children, Ada feeds the children, feeds Francis. Ada also provides money for Francis to pursue his academic career. We are also made to understand that Francis persuades Ada to accept having their third child in the house so that she will be given £6, which of course Francis intends to utilize for his own personal use. Ada is not happy with this arrangement as she wishes to have a third child in the hospital, but reluctantly agrees to have the child in the house. When she's due for delivery, she is unable to have the child on her own in the house. The hospital is called and she is rushed to the hospital where she is operated upon, and she has their third child called Bubu, B-U-B-U. Alright, so chapter 9 is titled Learning the Rules. So when Ada wakes up in the hospital after the CS, that's the cesarean section, after the operation through which she delivers her third child, she observes a woman who had just delivered showing off her baby. She's told a few days after that the woman had been barren for 17 years, which explains the reason why the woman was very excited after she delivered her own child. So Ada makes friends with the woman on bed 9, whom Ada describes as a sleek woman. Alright, so Ada observes the way the husband of that sleek woman, in quotes, treats her, how he comes around, spends time with her, buys her flowers and other things like that. Ada breaks down in tears because she realizes that Francis is not romantic. Francis is not that kind of a man. So Ada intends to tell Francis to buy her a night dress because Ada observes that other women in the world where she stays, where she has been admitted, their husband has brought them new night dresses so that they give back the hospital's night dress to the hospital nurses. So when Francis comes around, Francis comes with a letter. The content of the letter is that the colleagues of Ada, Mrs. Conrad, Cynthia, and others have contributed a certain amount of money for her upkeep in the hospital. Before Ada could say anything about the development, Francis says that he already intends to use the money to buy a material he believes will help him to pass one of his cost and accounting exams that he has already failed 5 times. Ada is very sad and thinks that she is married to a wicked man. She's very unhappy with the way Francis treats her and the way Francis would always want to monopolize the money she makes. But she doesn't say much about this as she has her plans. So 13 days after delivery, she is discharged from the hospital. So that's the summary of chapters 7 and 8 and 9 of second class citizen. So right about now, I'll be asking a couple of questions with regards to the major events that happened in all 3 chapters that I just summarized. I will be answering them. So the first question is this. What is the name of the man that takes off his trousers for a pint of beer? So we are told by the narrator in chapter 7 that Mr. Noble was in the habit of taking off his trousers to show off his genital to the whites who wanted to know if blacks had tails or not. Alright, so that's the answer, Mr. Noble. So the next question is, which religion did Francis practiced when he was younger? So we are told by the narrator in chapter 9 that Francis was a Muslim when he was younger. The next question is, what were the rules Ada learned? So chapter 9 of course is titled Learning the Rules. So the 3 major rules Ada learned is 1, she learns to mind her business. Number 2, she learns to say thank you when she's complimented. Number 3, she learns to be indifferent about Francis's behavior, Francis's excesses, about Francis's complaints. So these were the 3 major things she learned. Alright, so that I think we are good with this number of questions. If you like the video, give the video a thumbs up. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please do well to subscribe. And I will see you in the next video.